Welcome back to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, the podcast for the prepared, with your hosts, Scott, Shane, and Paris in the house. We are excited to share with you today. We're going to talk about some fifth-generation warfare. We're going to talk a little bit about some reality bending, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare for those things and what to be aware of and what to be looking out for. Before we do that, though, let's just reminder quick, go to preppertalkradio.com, check the top row for all the resources, our store. We've got some merch on there. If you're watching, you'll see that I've got my I'd rather be a warrior t-shirt. We've got some other merch on there, t-shirts, hats, other fun things. So please pick those up if you're inclined to do that and help support the show. Also, our one of our affiliate links is the H2Go purifier. H2Go, this is one of the, I feel like, and we've had the guy on our show, and we the inventor, we interviewed him. Check out our show for that episode to get more details. But this thing can purify water. It doesn't just filter it; it purifies the water, and it can purify thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons. Not only that, but it can make hand sanitizer, which is super awesome and amazing. And it's a really quick, easy machine. If you're watching on the YouTube, you can see it in my hand here. All you need is a little bit of salt and some water, and you're good to go. And then also, please go visit Survival Frog. Oh, if you go to H2Go, the links will be in the show notes. If you go to H2Go Purifier, use code PrepperTalk to get $6 off your purchase there. Also, go to survivalfrog.com and check out all of the different things that they have available there. They got a ton of resources, a great collection of preparedness items, from excellent food storage and canned meats, canned protein meats, to your survival bivvies and other important things that you need to have in your go bags and in other survival equipment. So, guys, here we are, Wednesday night, ready to rock and roll. Well, we record Wednesday night. You guys are listening on a Tuesday, but how do you guys feel?
A little under the weather, but all right. Otherwise,
I'm doing well. Man, dude, I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed in the world, our country, the political factions that are running things. It's just, as I've prepared for this episode, the more like disillusioned, I guess, I've become with every country in the world. It's bad. I mean, we're covering 5GW, 5th gen warfare, and let me give you a quick synopsis or recap of what it is. It is warfare that is non-kinetic. It's not hand-to-hand, it's not out of gun, it's not typical warfare. It's all basically mental, it's health. So there's non-kinetic, it's blurred lines, meaning you don't know where it's really coming from. So in the case of the United States, we'll dig into this a little bit more. One of the largest areas of misinformation or non-kinetic warfare is our own propaganda machine, which is the news networks, which every country in the world is having that same problem. There's also cyber warfare. There's information manipulations. Welcome to the world of AI, right? They can make anything look like anything. There's that. And then anything that falls in the gray zone where it's just short of declaring war, and it's non-physical.
Yeah, let's look at that, I guess, a little closer. It's not hot war, and it's obviously called 5th generation warfare because there were 4 generations before it, right? So I think it's important let's review those really quick. Yeah. First generation, and I got this just online. There, you can find this anywhere, and there's slight variations in how it's described, but it's essentially the first generation is considered kind of ancient. Ancient, how ancient is the question? Kind of Revolutionary War and backward and further in the past. Those types of tools, equipment, weapons, and so forth. The second is industrial, so labeled as industrial. So that's kind of like the machine gun when it was invented, breech loading weapons and those types of things, kind of like Civil War, somewhere around there. Third generation, considered late modern. That's when technology is really getting involved. World War II, when the airplanes were really beginning to be used, and strategies more like outmaneuvering instead of standing in a straight line like the Revolutionary War, right?
Yeah, like the British.
Exactly. So
they're all lined up. You go ping, ping,
I
ping,
know,
ping, ping, ping.
I
Well-
never understood that, and obviously the U.S. The wartime, then they didn't necessarily fight that way for good reason.
Well, it went from gentleman's war is what they called it, face to face, stand up, full confrontation.
Whatever. Yeah.
And they did the redcoats because that was intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
But then they learned quickly once guerrilla warfare was adapted. Oh, this doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. So postmodern fourth, excuse me, fourth gen warfare is kind of guerrilla, like you said, guerrilla warfare, decentralized, when contractors are being used, and that's what essentially it has been up until fifth gen has been going on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to really point out and make a point of that everyone understands is fifth generation warfare is still warfare.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, it's not a hot warfare at the moment in lots of places, but it's still warfare. So when people ask or think, have we started World War III already? Absolutely. We are in World War III. And we kind of mentioned this in some of our last shows, or I kind of mentioned it a little bit, is this warfare is, yes, being used between the U.S. and other countries, but it's being used on us as well. So I think that's the main thing that I wanted to get into and talk about here is fifth generation warfare on the population of the United States.
Shane, as you were saying that, an analogy came to my mind. Imagine if you have like a screw or a bolt that's really attached and it's not coming loose. You're using all the tools, all the torque, all your muscles necessary to get that thing going. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? Let me loosen it up a little bit. Let me tap it with a little WD-40 or some kind of lubricant to get it loose and get it to eat away at the whatever's holding it in place and holding it firm. And then after it's loosened up a little bit, boy, that nut, bolt, whatever, just comes off a lot easier anyways. Sometimes it's just super easy. To me, that's kind of like the idea of fifth generation warfare is that people know if you come at me with a gun, I know what you're doing. I'm going to fight you back. I'm going to dig in my heels. I'm going to fight you back. I'm going to be that bolt that's immovable or as immovable as possible. But if you're just going to pour some WD-40 on me, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. This is good. I see you're prepping me for the kinetic. And I feel like fifth generation is more of that. Hey, this is the psychological warfare. This is the belief warfare. This is the dumbing people down, dumbing Americans down warfare. This is the AI. This is all those types of things that are like prepping us so that when they do come in with kinetic issues, we're like, oh, what the heck? Where did this come from? And they just mow us down, so to speak. Is that
like you were saying? Sorry, the right product to use is called PB Blaster. So for stuck bolts and nuts, right?
Not WD-40.
No, I mean it's better than nothing, right? But PB Blaster penetrates that in there anyway. So, like Scott was saying, fifth generation warfare is a war on reality, is what it is. It is, excuse me, a war of information and perception. I mean, like you're saying, Scott, it can be difficult or impossible to attribute where this comes from. It's concealed, it's hidden, it's not so easy to distinguish. And that's where that warfare is so dangerous, because it's basically telling us that what you are experiencing is not reality. It is
gaslighting.
Exactly. It's gaslighting. It's a lot of different words. It's propaganda, which can be more easily acknowledged, noticed, if you know what you're looking for, right? But it can be even more subtle than that. And that's why it's so nefarious, because it is very dangerous. And that's really what we're seeing right now, and have really, and particularly since 2020, in the COVID era, I will call it that. And obviously much longer than that, back to maybe the great financial collapse era as well, when they were telling us, oh no, you're not actually seeing this, this is what's happening, and it's all lies. So that's really what fifth generation warfare is, in my mind.
Part of the whole propaganda warfare 5GW, fifth gen warfare. Like you go back to like World War II. I went to the World War II museum almost a decade ago. It was a phenomenal experience. One of the things I noticed, really horrendous things that I noticed, was there was an entire wing devoted to the propagandizing of the American and Japanese citizens primarily. They had flyers in Japanese that were dropped from planes all over Japan. There also had flyers from the US that were dropped from planes. There were newspaper printings. There were things that like just came out completely racist and animalistic statements of people of different cultures and countries, and they basically equated the Japanese to monkeys and animals. And they're like, yeah, they're not real. They're not real people. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what we said as a country to our own people about another people who are our brothers and sisters, right? Flash forward, or whatever you want to call it, till today. We're doing the same thing now by calling people racist that aren't, by saying, oh, they're colluding with Russia that aren't, or all these different things that we can be saying, right? We're propagandizing digitally now. Well, then you add in the factor of AI and bot farms. For example, in 2016, we had the whole collusion, Trump with Russia. It turns out it wasn't Trump with Russia. It was the DNC just completely fabricating things. And there was collusion from them, but not Trump and Russia. Surprise, surprise. Flash forward to now. Now we had in the last election, there were like Russian bot farms that were creating misinformation from both sides. They're just trying to destabilize us. But then we had the DNC and the Republican committees spending money on propaganda to just completely confuse us. And what's the best thing about having people confused? They don't know who their enemy is. They don't know how to make a decision. We're frozen. Why do you think America is so full of anxiety right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're
No
an
vision
anxious
for the future.
country.
Yeah.
You know, we just had the funniest thing. TikTok got banned and disappeared for 17 hours. Right? It was gone for 17 hours. And during that time and leading up to it, everyone was jumping onto this Chinese app. And they learned very quickly that in China, everybody can afford their groceries. That in China, everyone has free speech to a degree much higher than our own. In like all these things about China, like they have it a lot better than the U.S. citizen. And there was also this whole section that was exposed of like, now that America's gone, let's talk about Americans. And Scotland, the United Kingdom, France, like all over the UK, all over pretty much everywhere, Europe, everywhere. They were making fun of how like we think we have all these benefits and great things, but we're completely misguided. And we actually don't have those, that we're taxed worse than everybody else, that we have less free speech. That's
exactly what they believe. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. To come back and see how we have a skewed perspective of who we are and where we are in time and who our enemy is. And it's all because of this 5th gen warfare.
And it can also be called social engineering as well, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's why I don't spend much time on Facebook, or I don't believe I can be influenced, but subconsciously, yeah, absolutely. And so that's, I think, one of the things I'm trying to bring out in this conversation is so that we can be aware. If you're aware, you can be prepared. And some of the it's a lot of confusion. I've been feeling this myself, and I'm bringing this out because we see one thing and we're told another thing, right? There's no sense of truth or falsehood, right? It's hard to tell what the truth is, and that creates confusion. It creates trauma. Is there nothing objective, or is everything subjective? And that's, I think, really, it's about perception. It's about emotions, is what they're trying to throw at us. Don't look for truth. Don't look for reality. Everything is your own truth, whatever you want to create for yourself, right? And they are creating a narrative through these social platforms. And if you can consciously look for these things and notice what they're trying to do, I think it takes practice. It's not something that I've been able to just recognize right off the bat. but I think I'm getting better at it over time.
Well, the other challenge is they're trying to they then use that to their advantage to say, okay, I've got you so confused that you're second guessing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you're like, ooh, is this information or misinformation or
No,
disinformation?
make the decision for me.
And they want you so
Turned around.
aware of everything that could be wrong that your inability to make decisions and inability to do things, that you're stuck.
Because
And
things are constantly changing.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the last few weeks, we saw information about aliens. We saw information about missing nuke. We saw information about all these drones. And where did all that information go? Gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the drones today? No one's talking about drones. No one's
Trump
seeing
says he'll
any
find
drones.
out. He'll find out and let us know.
Yeah, that was last week, Scott. We've already
Well,
moved
that
on.
was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and it's part of the entire propaganda machine, the psychological warfare machine, to keep you confused and not really knowing what's going on.
Well, I think something came out too just recently about how President Trump was saying, well, how did I had an assassination attempt on me. Like, where did that go? Like, how come we're not talking about what this guy was killed apparently, and but it all got swept under the rug. So even major political, like, that shouldn't be happening, is all swept under the rug now too. It's like, where are we going? What's the next step here to really get things moving along? And I think that there's a lot to be aware of. And one of the things that I'm reading, a book a lot right now, and they mention the difference between being responsible and being accountable. And responsibility means that you know what you're doing. Accountability means that if it's not right, you don't keep doing it. And there's no accountability. Like, people just are like, yeah, we did it. But where's the consequence? Well, nobody has a consequence for anybody, and they just keep doing it, even if they know it's wrong, and they just keep doing it because nobody's holding them accountable. And then when somebody does hold you accountable, it's like, oh, you're a jerk. They throw up this tantrum and this victim mentality, and all of a sudden everybody cowers to them and says, oh, great, we'll just let you do whatever you want. And then that's how there's no. I just feel like our country was built on self-reliance. It was built on people who had the American dream. They really wanted to do something with their lives. They were entrepreneurs. They were just, everybody kind of had that respect for one another. I won't mess with you if you don't mess with me. And today it's like, where did that all go? And that's part of, I think, this whole dumbing us down and getting us, this fifth generation warfare is clearly working, because now there's just so much in the news about all the different things that are going on. And now it's to the point where most Americans, I think, are completely despondent. They're like, you know what? Just F it all. I don't care what side is doing what. As long as I can wake up in the morning and go to work and cash my paycheck, I'm fine. Other than that, everybody else can go take a hike. And that's not how we build strong societies. That's not how we build strong nations. That's not how our government, which is a democratic republic, is founded. We need to be able to know the issues, discuss them, and frankly, have anybody step into an office at any level of government, because that's what it was generally. It started with the average man has a chance to be a political leader that can help govern the country. Now it's all these politicians that have careers doing it, and they're masters at it. I was watching another show the other day. It's like, these people don't get appointed to these committees. They write a personal check and then they get appointed to this committee, Congress and to the Senate. I mean, like, that's just that. The whole form of reality is completely changed since our country was originally founded and established.
Well, there's a word that I hear all the time, and the word truth, right? I think we're all trying to get to find out what the truth is about a lot of different things. Like you say, like we were talking about these darn drones, right? What's the truth? And it seems like, it's obvious that we cannot get to the truth right now. It's very difficult to get to the truth, if possible at all. And so I think that causes a lot of people to lose confidence in the system, in themselves, in their decision-making abilities, in a lot of things. I think, like you say, and I think that's intentional, so that we just concede to the powers that be, make the choices for me. I don't have the confidence to make a good choice because everything's so confusing and I don't know what the truth is and it's just escaping me. And so if we can realize that and challenge ourselves to at least make a choice, right? Decide on an answer, come up with an answer, best answer you can of what that is, and then test that out rather than leaving that in the hands of the authorities, right? Air quote authorities.
Right.
And what are authorities anymore, right? They're all, everything is
Popularity contest, right?
It's so skewed from reality that you can't tell who's really who, right? From all appearances, to some people, they believe that Trump is their savior of America.
Yeah.
And he's their favorite. To other people, they're like, he is the worst thing to ever happen to America. They're all seeing the same data points. They're all seeing, right, everything that's coming out, but they're also adjusting their view to the skewed perspective of their experiences. Our experience, and this is a challenge that we all have. Our experience is what creates what we can understand and how we interpret the world around us. And the problem is it's been so skewed now. How do I really truly measure what's right and what's wrong with any of the tools the world gives us? It's becoming near impossible, I think, based on the tools the world has given us. There's this whole argument between, is the Earth flat or is the Earth a globe? And they're so vehement on both sides. Here's what's true. We live in a toroidal sphere. That's how magnetic north works. We're not going to dig any deeper than that because that's the only truth that you can actually validate and prove. There's too many arguments on the other sides of both to be like, okay, well, what is it?
Like what's gravity?
Right. Gravity is a theory. It is not a proven fact.
Yeah, like you say, it could be magnetism, could be a number of things.
The law of density and mass actually answer how everything else works. And it's proven and it's provable, whereas gravity is not provable. Go look it up. It's the most mind-boggling thing. When I started researching gravity, I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. My whole life, gravity's real. But it's a theory. Just like I found out recently that the national bird for the United States, do you know what it is?
It's not the eagle? Not the golden.
It's not the eagle. We didn't have one. I learned this in grade school that the national bird for the United States of America was the bald eagle. And the bill just got pushed out to say, hey, let's make this our national bird. And I'm like, it's on the back of quarters. It's on the back of silver eagles. And that's why it's called a silver eagle and gold eagle. Like, what? Or maybe it was, and we're now...
Bald eagle officially declared U.S. national bird after 250 years.
Right.
On December 25th last year. I did not know that.
Take all that into effect and you say, okay, what really is reality? What the things that are tangible and the things that you can control are the things to worry about. If you can't control it and you can't touch it, don't stress about it.
Well, maybe we should talk about a few examples to further illustrate the point. Words are obviously really important. I've talked about that before. So words that get thrown around a lot are like equity and equality, right? We all want equality, right? I mean, that sounds logical. Equity, if you really understand what those words mean, no, we don't want, well, I'll speak for myself. Equity and equality are quite different, especially what is the result, right? Equality of results or equality of opportunity, right? And so those words get mixed up together, and it's hard to, if you don't look back to an older source like I do with the 1828 Webster's Dictionary for some kind of reference point for particular words. And so that's just one example of words where they really get mixed up in our brains by modern interpretation of particular words.
And how we then process that interpretation. That's the other challenging thing, because if you look in the world today, we have statuses on people, meaning if I have a doctorate's degree in something, that makes me an expert.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me a credible source.
Put on a white lab coat.
Right? Put on a white lab coat, that makes me a credible source. Where someone who's probably done more research and actually tested theories and validated data, who doesn't have that, is ostracized because they aren't peer reviewed. They don't have the trench coat, the lab coat. They don't have the right. They don't have the PhD. They don't. It's not piled higher and deeper. We have this false sense of security in what someone tells us based on their status, instead of what real truth is and what's verifiable. And we live in such a world where everything is so falsely propped up that it's hard to find what's really true or not, because you can find arguments for anything with false data points behind it. Looking back at the 5th gen warfare, part of it is simply this. It is creating a database of false information to then back up an argument and a story. So it looks like it's overwhelming that you're like, oh, it has to be that way. And they use AI to create those.
Yeah, exactly. It's making people believe things that actually are not true. Is really what 5th gen warfare is. It's not, and obviously it's done in multiple different ways of twisting, or like just using slight different definitions to where you can't really pinpoint where that came from or what the exact meaning is. And like I mentioned before, it creates a difficulty in making decisions for yourself, and or coming up with what the truth is about anything. So it really is very what is the right word? Very difficult to process in my mind. I'm thinking, of course, relating to my own experiences, trying to distinguish truth from error.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because right now in the digital world, data is king. People pay billions of dollars for data, user data. And it's hacked all the time. It's stolen all the time. It's resold all the time. And it's falsified all the time. And then you couple that with mass surveillance, and they can learn anything they want about you. Like, for example, I don't know if you guys knew this, but 96% of hospital data is shared with Facebook and Meta at the user terminal level. So they know when you check in at the hospital, because you're using the same email address or the same name and the same birth dates attached to your account. So they're utilizing that data set because someone logged into Facebook on that terminal, and it then connects to everything on that terminal to then track it. Same thing with your phones. Same.
It's all in the background, you're saying?
On your tablets. Yeah. Look at the user agreements. That listens to conversations. It records where you go, how long you stay there, what you buy there if you use your phone to track that, right? They see what you see in data sets. Not necessarily the visual image of it, but they see the data set of what it means.
Well, that's
surveillance at a level that it makes it impossible to really know what's going on, because they can then spoof you so easily. Simply put, like, I remember going to a location and meeting with people because we have the same interests, and then noticing in my next few weeks on the social media platforms that the people that were there were all being introduced as people I may know, even though I'd made no connection to those people at those events, but they were at the event. And so because I was there, they're now introducing us all. And then I'm also getting marketing products from companies I've never heard of because I'm now connected to those people or that event. It's fascinatingly scary.
You know, one thing that I was trying to butt in there about is what the connection I'm making there is. We are all exposed to a very virtual world. being on social media, having its screens at our fingertips.
Mhm.
You have the whole world in your hand, spending so much time online, whether it's for work or whatever. It's a very virtual world. It's not real. And you look at the hottest things. I mean, where are people making the most dollars, right? In Bitcoin, in the markets, things that are not tangible. They're paper, they're theoretical, they're ethereal. And it's not real, right? It doesn't actually exist. Like the financial world, everything is digital for the most part, right? Dollars don't actually exist except for a few in my wallet, right? And I think that's part of this whole thing that makes it so much easier for them to do their job. Everything is so subjective, and having that virtual world at our fingertips allows them to manipulate so much easier than if you're in the real world. If you're in the real world, you're unplugged and you have a job that you're working in an oil field. You're working on a rig. You're working out. You're a carpenter, right? You do plumbing. You're a welder. That's the real world, right? That's you're doing real stuff. And I think it seems to me that those are kind of people are the people that see through this BS, that they can more easily spot the 5th gen warfare. If you're consciously, competently looking for this 5th gen warfare and how to avoid it and how to resist it, is because you live in real things. Look at the difference between, the financial world, again, stocks, bonds, dollar, it's all paper, whereas gold and silver is real. That's just a simple example to me in my mind of how to combat. And we talk about all the time about unplugging, right? Unplug, get out of the virtual, get out of the matrix. That's been the hottest topic for a long time. Take the blue pill, take the red pill. What do you choose? And get yourself out of the matrix. And we have to do that consciously and be competent about it.
A big thing too, I've just kind of heard a lot about is that these guys who get online and they'll show the best of everything in their life. They'll be traveling the world and show all these great experiences they're having. And then the next thing you know, you find out in the news that their family life is horrible. They just committed suicide. They're high on drugs. They lost all their money. They just filed for bankruptcy. Like it's a facade. It's a Potemkin village, if you will. And that's where most of Americans will be like, reality sucks in many ways, and can suck, I should say. But that also, that's life. That like life is supposed to be challenging and it's hard, adventurous, and it's supposed to be sweat and blood and tears. And too many of us are like, I don't want that anymore. I want to make $1 million in 3 months on YouTube or on Instagram or on TikTok shops. And so we get into this world that doesn't even exist, but we think it exists because we are told that it exists so much. And we see these guys with the yachts and the Lambos and the bikini clad girls. And we're like, oh, that's what I want. That's the life. That's the real life. Right. And that's not the real life. That dude's probably rented that Lambo. He's probably paid those girls to show up. Yeah. And he makes 10 grand every time you knucklehead say yes and buy his program. That's not even a program he's actually making money doing. He's just selling you on how to make money. Then you're trying to buy that. That's how he makes money, not on what you're actually going to learn, but he makes money on telling you that he has the answer to get rich quick. And so I was in a I don't know if you've heard of School, anybody who's heard of School on this, who's listening, but it's kind of like a new platform for community building and business building. And there's some really neat aspects to it. I'm trying to build a community over there with my financial business, but I was listening to a guy who does Instagram. He sells these products and programs to help you make millions and whatever. And he was going through the reality. He says, you know what, for years, I was the guy on the reels who had the Lambos and the yachts and the big house. And he says, guys, I just want you to know that's all fake. It was all fake. He says, yeah, I could show you that I made 300 grand. And I would tell everybody, look how much money I made this month. I made 300 grand in 1 month. I'm the bomb. I'm the biggest guy. I'm the best guy. But what we don't see is that he was spending 299,000 of it to be able to continue the facade. And he had no real wealth. He was like, I'm tired of having no net or no net income, no net wealth. I didn't have anything to show for. I was making big money, but I had to spend the big money to show the big money. And that was basically it was, again, another Potemkin village facade. And we want to have, as Americans, we want freedom. We want ease. We want serenity. We want tranquility. And we think we got to go buy it somewhere else. And it's not out there. It's inside. It's inside of us. And I think that has a lot to do with why we're so caught up in the dopamine hits of social media, is that we're the outside, the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, the elites, they know that if they can distract us with these false beliefs and false religions, if you will, then they can get us to relinquish our true beliefs and our true religions and our true selves to this whole idea of a false sense of identity. Like the fact that we had to have an executive order to say that there's only two genders, like what world do we live in where that's just not common sense, right? So we've gotten to the point now where that's so weird. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have thrown that in there, but I did. Anyways, the point is that I feel like there's a lot going on in this alternate reality, that everybody lives in the alternate reality, not in real reality. And we need to get back to real reality and recognize this alternate social virtual world that's been created that's not even real. I mean, they say in the news, in the mainstream media, like all these things about the racism and the hate and the conflicts. But then I go out and I go shopping and I'm walking by a guy who's a different race than me, and we're friends. Like in real life, we're friends, but on the social media, apparently we're supposed to be the worst enemies, you know? So that's kind of my 2 cents on this whole 5th generation warfare and how it's kind of playing out as I'm seeing it.
I've got, I guess, 2 final comments before we wrap up here. First of all, a quote by Ayn Rand: "You cannot ignore reality, but you cannot." Or excuse me, let me start over. You can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality.
Nice.
That is absolutely true. You won't necessarily see those consequences for a while after ignoring that reality, but it eventually will hit you. Another thing that I have come to realize, at least I think is true, is that this 5th generation warfare is more than just a battle for the mind. I think it is truly spiritual warfare is what it is.
Yeah.
Amen, dude.
And I think that's a better way to describe it, because ultimately that's what it damages the most, right? Our spirit, our connection to our creator, to God. And I think if, and I'll speak for myself, if I can figure out how that is really affecting me, that I can stay closer to my creator and really understand the purpose of life and how to combat this 5th gen warfare.
Amen. I agree, dude.
It almost seems like it comes down to, where is your peace? Am I in a place of peace? I can make a better decision and do better research in a place of peace than if I'm in a place of panic or a place of fear, or where this false reality wants me to be. And I've noticed personally, when I'm in a place of peace, emotionally and spiritually, my awareness of what's going on around me is higher.
Yeah, amen. Yeah.
There was a story, sorry, study, not even the right word. There was a story of this mother and their daughter. They were talking, and the daughter was probably 7 years old, somewhere between 5 and 7. And I'd heard the lady shared the story with me over a year and a half ago, so I'm going to have some details wrong. But essentially, it was this: she was like, "I haven't heard from my mom in a while, and that bothers me." And the daughter, so the granddaughter, said, "Well, Mom, Grandma's going through a hard time, and she didn't have the capacity to think about other people because she's stuck in a fearful mode. So we should probably check on her." And the lady goes, "This is my kid who just taught me the most humbling awareness principle of my life. That when you're in a place of survival, it's hard to think about other people and hard to think about the reality of what's going on around you. and that it's not just about you. It's about the world. It's about everything. So, oh, I haven't heard from somebody in a long time. Oh, they're a jerk. No, maybe they're just going through something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the world is trying to make you feel like you're all alone. And the reality is you're not. But we definitely need to reconnect. Like you said, Paris, going to the store and meeting someone of a different race or background or whatever, they're still your friend. Like, we need to connect, and we need to make friends, and we need to manage those friendships and maintain those friendships at all costs at this point.
Yep.
Because
we're more alike than we are different, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I'll just close with, why is this important? Because if we're being manipulated and we're being lied to, we can't make real informed decisions if the material we're working with is false or fake or not real. And this is our life. And there's this old saying, YOLO, you only live once. And people are like, yeah, just do whatever, YOLO. And I'm like, dude, if I'm only going to live once, I want to make it work. I want to make it worth it. I want to do it right, not throw it away. Like, do it right. And that's with good, strong, solid information. And in closing, you guys, just thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being a part of our show. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio, rated for the ready-minded. If you're on Apple Podcasts, go over and give us a review. I'm going to read a review here from a Mr. Ryan, a 5-star review we got in December. Was looking for another good podcast besides the Canadian Prepper Podcast. The hosts are great. Also, they have 400 plus shows already made. Good job, guys. Thank you, Mr. Ryan, for that review. Thank you for the 5-star review. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we have 61 ratings right now. Let's see if we can get to 100 ratings. We prefer a 5-star rating. Of course, we want you to be honest. So we prefer a 5-star rating if you can give us one, and then leave us a comment, and maybe you'll be, maybe we'll read your comment on a show in the future. Once again, thank you, Mr. Ryan. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded. We will see you guys on the next one. Please keep your head on a swivel and keep your eyes open. 5th gen warfare is no joke. Take care, guys.
See you next week.
Good night, everybody.